Namaskar to all of you from Boston. This is Kanchan Banerjee. I'm the co-founder and the managing director for the Boston Center of Excellence. I was born long before the last two world wars, long after the last two world wars. So I had no idea about how to live through a situation of war. But today, we're in the midst of a real global war, a silent one, an invisible one. The coronavirus is our enemy. Millions of us are affected by this outbreak, pandemic, and don't know when it will all end. While we follow all the instructions from our government officials locally, wherever you are, we have organized this webinar to get some expert guidance and opinion from integrative medicine point of view. And we have over close to 300 registrations from 35 countries globally. Many people from Europe, South Africa, Australia, and especially the hardest hit area, like in Italy, there are a few of you. Thank you all for joining, and we appreciate that we are together in this crisis and we'll be together. And just few words about the Boston Center of Excellence, what we do. As you can see, I hope you can see my screen. Boston Center of Excellence was started, Boston Center of Excellence for Health and Human Development. It was established to bring together researchers, subject matter experts, practitioners, institutions, and support for the research and to program development, education, and promotion of yoga and Ayurveda. The center aims to improve disease outcomes in the Western world by making yoga and Ayurveda core constituent of integrative health and medicine in the US and the world. So with that, I will introduce the panelists quickly. First, I'm going to have Dr. Balram Singh. Dr. Singh, your video is not turning on, so if you please try to turn it on.
It's on, I can see it.
Okay, you are on.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Balram Singh is currently the chairman of the Boston Center of Excellence, and he is a leading expert on protein structure, protein folding and functions, botulinum toxin, and biodefense agents. He's the founder of Prime Bio, a leading product and service provider and Institute of Advanced Sciences, a professor with an interest in teaching innovative technology, especially biotechnology, Ayurvedic biotechnology, physical biochemistry, and biological spectroscopy. And he has been a professor of chemistry. He taught at University of Massachusetts for many years. With that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Singh. Please.
Namaste, everyone, and thank you, Kanchanji. It is one of those sober moments. It's not a point of celebration that we are here together, but we want to take this very seriously. The worldwide problem of coronavirus. This virus is very similar to other viruses that we have seen, such as SARS or HIV virus. There is no countermeasure at this point because it is very new. Otherwise, it walks like and talks like just like any other virus. There are some unique features of this virus, and which need to be considered for developing countermeasures. One of them is very fast. It's very aggressive. But as usual, these viruses are very ancient. They have been there from the very beginning of the life, and they have the unique feature of changing themselves very rapidly. If we want to consider a evolutionary advantage of a virus over a human being, it's about 26 trillion times more advantage. It has moves very fast. It produces very fast, and it changes in its genetic material very fast. That's why it is very difficult to catch up with it. It has a humongous impact on our life in terms of economics, in terms of business, and in terms of social structure. It will be eventually defeated, but the question is when and how, and we just need to have time. It is an ancient virus, as I said, and so the ancient wisdom needs to be at least employed for now. We have survived for very, very long time dealing with these kind of viruses, these kind of pathogens. And what we have today is that ancient wisdom coming from the land of India, where body mind has been a very important aspect of the human being for study. And what we have is yoga, which allows understanding of self through the mind. And we have Ayurveda, which is a study of life through diet, lifestyle, and herbs. And we are very fortunate to have two very prominent individuals who have agreed to join us. And we have Dr. Timothy McCall, a modern physician internist who has turned as a yoga doctor. He's a medical editor of Yoga Journal, and he has a book called Yoga as Medicine, Amazon's #1 bestseller. And he has a global outreach. That's not Dr. McCall. I think we need to put the other picture, Dr. McCall, on the video.
Yeah, Timothy, are you able to connect?
I'm here, and let me see. Okay, here we go. Just that should do it. Can you see that now?
That's Timothy McCall, and as I was saying, that he has a global outreach through a YouTube channel called Ask the Yoga Doctor. And then we have Dr. Pratap Chauhan of the Jiva Institute, who is a pioneer. We can go ahead, put Dr. Chauhan, yeah, who is a pioneer in telemedicine to reach throughout the world, particularly rural areas, for telemedicine, where people can ask and get treatments. And he has been recognized by the United Nations with a World Summit Award. Both of these individuals have a tremendous knowledge and experience in dealing with issues which are global. And in my opinion, they both are pandemic in nature in their outreach. And since virus is also pandemic, and this is probably the best approach to take, to learn from them as to how we deal with it now and forever. One of the things that I wanted to make a point is that we in modern science and medicine, we bring and create countermeasures against these organisms. And what these ancient wisdom tell us is that we become strong ourselves. And so if we are strong, until we get countermeasures, we can deal with it. And this is what I hope that we will be learning. So I will request Dr. Timothy McCall make some brief points before we start answering questions. No, before we go to Dr. Pratap Chauhan, and then we will start dealing with the questions and interactions.
Dr. Singh, we cannot see you still. I don't think your video was on.
Oh, I'm seeing myself share. Oh, sorry. Okay, now I'm here. Namaste.
Okay. Yes. So thank you, Dr. Singh, and
Okay.
the rest of you.
Okay.
Okay,
All right,
Timothy.
so thank you, namaste. I'm so happy to be here and to be with you all. You know, right now, obviously, is a time of great uncertainty, a lot of insecurity, a lot of fear, and all that is very natural. And the thing is, we don't have any conventional responses other than to try to support people through the virus and hopefully get them to the point where they can, their own antibodies can fight it. We don't have any effective drugs, anything like that yet. Now, one of the ideas of integrative medicine that Balaramji suggested is this notion that there are two ways to fight infections and to fight the chance of getting infection. One is conventional medical approaches. The other is holistic measures, which are aimed at making the person themselves stronger, boosting their immune system, for example. Now, if you've been watching mainstream doctors talk on YouTube or wherever you're getting your information from, you'll notice that a number of them say there's nothing anyone can do for immunity. And whereas we don't have the kind of proof scientifically that would be ideal if things like Ayurveda and yoga were researched in as much depth as we would like, the fact is we have a lot of indications that immunity does in fact improve with these measures. And I want to just tell you a brief story of my own experience. As many of you know, or some of you know anyway, 3 years ago, I finished treatment for a head and neck cancer, metastatic head and neck cancer. And I had chemotherapy that suppressed my lymphocyte count, lowered some of the main white blood cells that fight infection. And it's never bounced back in 3 years to normal. I'm still abnormally low in lymphocytes. But I have been really good about using Ayurvedic lifestyle advice, a lot of which we're going to talk about today, about using yoga, and about going to India and getting Ayurvedic treatments, oil massages, etc. in Kerala. And in the 3 years since I have finished chemotherapy and radiation therapy for my cancer, which by the way seems to be in a good situation, I have had one cold that lasted 1 day. I have been around other people who've been sick and have not gotten sick. Now, obviously, that's not a controlled scientific study, but it really makes me be a believer in the power of yoga, Ayurveda, lifestyle interventions to at least help things along. No guarantee, of course, but can we help things? And I think the answer is yes.
Thank you, Timothy. May I request Dr. Pratap Chauhan to make few comments and before we start taking some questions.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on this panel, and namaste to all wherever you are, in which place. Of course, we are all passing through a very grim situation in the world. You know, we're all facing this big menace. The situation in every country is quite difficult. Even in India today, we had a complete shutdown of the whole country. Looking at the situation, because there is no treatment even in the modern medicine, conventional medicine right now, we must definitely look into other alternatives or other systems of medicine, as we call them, like traditional medicine systems. And since the problem started in China, I was reading a lot of material how they dealt with this, and I was reading actually that almost 85% of the patients, along with the antiviral treatment or modern conventional treatment, they were also given traditional Chinese medicine. And the decoction they gave, they called it like a herbal soup, which of course many of the herbs are very similar that we find in Ayurveda. A few of them like ephedra, licorice, and some others, which are working primarily on the respiratory system. And this is, I think, is the time when we should not be like trying to, have competition or trying to maybe, fight with each other or trying to say that you don't have evidence and, you should have some evidence-based medicine. I think it's time we should take anything that comes from anywhere which is beneficial for the patient, especially because the load of the patient, especially in Italy and these countries, now they're even refusing to take the people who are old people, elderly people, and which they think they cannot survive. So I strongly believe that in Ayurveda, because it's a very ancient medical system, of course, not very well known in the West, but in India it has been there for more than 5,000 years, and there are protocols of various diseases. If we look at the typical symptoms that we see in this COVID-19 disease. There are similar situations that are described in Ayurveda under the chapters. There are chapters that describe different types of Swasaroga, Kasaroga, different types of Jwara, which is called fever. And in Ayurveda, we also go a step, below. We're not looking only just at the physical level. We go a little bit more in the subtle level, and where we try to see what are the basic functional energies of the body, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, as you all might have heard these words. And when there is a imbalance in that level, that is when the physical manifestation happens of the diseases. So if we can also try to look at the disease from the perspective of the three doshas, then typically because of the dry cough and the lungs which get fibrosis, so this is a typical vata symptom, because there is mucus also which gets dried up, so there is a kapha. And when fever comes, so typically it's like a vata, pitta, kapha, it's a three dosha disease. And when we want to look at the treatment part, according to Ayurveda, I'm not saying I'm just giving you treatment for the COVID-19 disease, but in Ayurveda we always try to look at what are the root doshas involved. So then we can come across a lot of herbs, and that's what I found in the traditional Chinese medicine. They're giving licorice. Licorice is a very interesting herb that can make the mucus a little bit soft. It is an expectorant. Ephedra is a very good like a bronchodilator. We often give it in like people who have asthma, breathing problems. And then there are herbs which are like antipyretic. Guduchi is very popular now. A lot of people are taking that. We have also neem. Neem is quite popular now, which is considered as like an antiviral, antibacterial, or all those kind of infections in the body. So this is one part. The other part, of course, the immunity is a very important part of the human system that fights the disease. And for increasing the immunity in Ayurveda, we also have a separate branch. It's called the branch of rejuvenation, Rasayana it's called. So there are very nice Rasayanas, especially, a very popular Rasayana, which is very good, not only for the whole system, but specifically for the respiratory system. It is called Chavanprash. Everybody I think might have heard. Vitamin C, as we all know, is a very important immunity booster. And in Ayurveda, we have Amala. Amalaki is a very nice herb full of vitamin C and many other benefits that can boost the immunity. Along with the immunity booster herbs, we also in Ayurveda want to make sure that the Agni of the person is strong, because Agni or Jataragni or digestive fire, as we call it in Ayurveda, plays a very, very important role both in taking care of the infection or toxins. It burns the toxins, and also it helps to build the immunity both ways. So along with the like whatever I said, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, anti-tridoshic treatment, along with the immunity boosters or the digestive fire herbs should be given. And not to forget the mind part. Mind plays a very important role, especially in this time when we are hearing every country, even the countries with most advanced health. And in that case, we have to remember that we must take care of the mind also, because when we are in fear, we are in panic, our immune system goes down. When we are in fear, when we have any kind of panic, definitely our digestive system also gets compromised. So this is how in Ayurveda, I think I'm just giving you a brief outline. Of course, I'm sure like if the governments take this decision, especially we are also trying to now somehow talk to the modern conventional doctors that maybe there should be a way that both systems can work together. And like in China, we have seen the example. They were working together and they got some very good results. So first anti-dosha treatment, then immunity, then Agni, and of course taking care of the mind, keeping the mind calm and quiet and relaxed. That's how Ayurveda can approach.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan. Are there any questions that we are getting from online, or should I go ahead with the questions that we have already accumulated? Kanchan, do you want?
Dr. Singh, a question just came that Dr. Chauhan spoke about treatment. So can we hear a little bit more about prevention first, and then some specific things about treatment?
So first of all, I did not speak about the treatment of COVID-19 because we all know that COVID-19 is a new disease. I was talking about like how Ayurveda approaches a particular disease. You know, when people come to us, and sometimes we cannot name the disease, you know, but looking at the doshas, looking at different, you know, Ayurvedic protocols, we try to approach the treatment. There is a special way to, you know, make a proper pathogenesis, which is called samprapti. But definitely talking about prevention, and when we talk of prevention, then immunity is the most important part, along with, of course, hygiene. Hygiene, as you see in this particular disease, it is highly contagious. So washing hands and, you know, not touching your hand above your neck, especially your mouth, nose, and ears, which is, you know, people often do that. And especially if you are, you know, opening a door, you're going in an elevator, you're, you know, touching any surface, make sure you don't touch it directly with your fingers. You can use your knuckles, you can use your elbow, you can use your legs to open the door. You have to be very careful, and wherever you touch any surface, you must make sure that you wash your hands immediately. This is something which is very, very important for prevention. And then secondly, talking about the immunity. And in immunity, even if you don't find Ayurvedic herbs in your area, I'm sure you can find licorice. Licorice is quite common. So licorice tea you can drink. You can also, if you can find just lemon, you know, which is commonly available. So warm water with lemon, you can drink 2-3 times. You can also do gargling, you know, mostly because this virus, as I'm reading, it's in the sinuses and in the throat, and that's from where it goes into your lungs. So if you keep drinking warm water during the daytime, and if you also gargle with salty lukewarm water, so there are chances that you keep clearing if there is something, you know, gets into your respiratory tract. And in addition to this, of course, I did mention about the good digestive fire. So there is a very nice recipe I often tell people. Take 1 liter of water and you add 1 teaspoon of fennel, 1 teaspoon cumin, 1 teaspoon coriander powder, and some fresh ginger. 4 things. You can boil it nicely, filter it, and fill it in a thermos, and all day keep drinking. In Ayurveda, we also have a very interesting method where we put oil in our nose. The process is called nasya. It's a very, you know, specific treatment in Panchakarma. But at your home, if you have sesame oil or if you have almond oil or mustard oil, put 2 drops in each nostril in the morning and in the evening, twice a day. I was also reading that, you know, when there is a fat medium or oily medium, the virus gets trapped in it and doesn't move further. So these are some things we can, you know, try at home. Especially also apply oil on your hand. You can apply oil on your face, apply oil all over your body, and make sure you do not have constipation. So constipation is a very prominent part of treatment in Ayurveda when we do any kind of treatments, because sometimes people take it very lightly. So if you have constipation, that means if you're not going to the toilet every morning, not evacuating your bowels regularly, it will be also advisable to take some laxatives, maybe Triphala, which is very popular now all over the world. So that's how we can try to, you know, take some precautions that we avoid, you know, contact with this virus.
Thank you, Timothy. Would you take the question as to how to take preventative measures in terms of yoga, if there is anything that people can do and use yoga as part of it?
Yes, hold on. Let me just get my webcam up there. See if this is, there we go. There I am. Okay, so first of all, I want to second what Dr. Pratap has said, because essentially there isn't the strict differentiation in holistic medicine between prevention and treatment. Because you've got doshic imbalances, we bring those to balance, you're less likely to get infected. We do things to boost immunity. Now, of course, in yoga, and again, yoga also talks about lifestyle. And so, you want to boost your immunity, try to sleep well. If you're not able to sleep as well at night, doing something like listening to yoga nidra, a recording, while you're lying in your bed may coax your body back to sleep and may give you some restorative benefits by itself. Restorative yoga, similarly, if you're not sleeping as well as you might, getting some restorative yoga during the course of the day can be very useful. I have a pose that I highly recommend called Legs Up the Wall or Viparita Karani. I've got a video up on my YouTube channel, Ask the Yoga Doctor, that describes how to do that. Just one of many restorative poses that can be very useful. Now, in this time of uncertainty and fear, Ayurveda would say that even though coronavirus may manifest as a tridoshic disease, right now Vata is the big thing that most of us are facing. We're at home, we don't know what to do, we don't know who to trust, we're getting some misinformation, we have financial insecurity, work is being canceled, whatever's going on. All of that stuff tends to raise Vata. And so doing things like trying to, even though you don't have the external things like going to a job at a certain time that you might normally have if you're one of those people who's home, trying to maintain some kind of regular schedule, trying to eat your meals at regular times, trying to have some semblance of normalcy. Now, the other one, and this is probably going to be hard for some people to hear, is we don't want to spend all day on the internet or on the computer because that actually is also Vata deranging with too much screen time, too much on the internet. So I really think part of the preventive thing is to try to, eat as well as you can, eat well-cooked, fat-containing meals, healthy fats like ghee and coconut oil and other things like that. Try to get particularly at lunch, try to get a really good meal. Try to eat regularly, try to sleep regularly, try to make time in your day for exercise. If you can get out, if you have a backyard, get out in your backyard, get out at least and get some sunlight. And move around a little bit. I've been doing that every day in my backyard. I think that's part of the thing. Now, let me mention one more thing for people who find themselves in a position where they have to travel. And this doesn't come strictly from yoga, but it comes from modern medical science. And that is something which is known as autophagy. The 2016 Nobel Prize in Medicine went to a Japanese doctor who discovered fasting-induced autophagy, which is the Greek word for self-eating, okay? Normally, digestion takes a tremendous amount of our energy. When we fast for a day or even for 15 or 16 hours overnight by just not having anything between dinner and breakfast, we start to develop this self-eating, which is the translation of the Greek-based word autophagy. And we start consuming old immune cells and creating new potent immune stem cells. And so I just returned less than a week ago from India. I had to pass through Abu Dhabi, I had to pass through Dulles Airport, I had to be not as many crowds as I think normally, but I was definitely around a lot of people, certainly on the airplanes I was. And what I did is I simply stopped eating the night before I flew the next morning, didn't eat at all on the airplane. First of all, the food on airplanes Sometimes it tastes good, usually it doesn't, but even when it tastes good, it's old, stale food. It's not ideal. And so I didn't eat any of that food. I just drank water the whole time. And so I created this zone where I'm in a state of ketosis, where I'm less likely, where my immune system is going to work a little bit better. I'm not eating food at a time where my digestive fire is not ready for it, because they feed you at random times on airlines that don't make any sense biologically. So yeah, that's another little tip I could give.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Chauhan.
This is a very interesting point Dr. Timothy has made. In Ayurveda, we call it Langhana, and they say Langhana Paramoshadi. They say this Langhana or fasting, is the best medicine. And especially when we fight these kind of infections, any kind of infections, we do advise people to go on a water fast, or just drink coconut water or fresh fruit juices, and it really works, because again it works in a way that it enhances the strength of our digestion, and of course it also helps to clear up the toxins, and hence it boosts the immunity. So therefore it's a very important thing, and because since most of us are now locked in the home, there's not much physical activity. So in other way, I'm going to say that when we don't have much physical activity, we should not consume more food, because if we eat more food, or we eat the quantity which is not digested by our system, it will convert into a toxic material. The word in Ayurveda is called ama. And normally I always say in my lectures, ama is the mama, is the mother of all diseases. Because ama is the medium where anything breeds, anything grows, any foreign material, any foreign bacteria, virus. If the body is free from ama, these things cannot grow. Even if they will go in, and if the immunity is strong, they will be thrown out, or they'll be nullified. And the second thing, Dr. Timothy also mentioned, a very nice part is to eat at regular times, to have regularity in life. This is what we in Ayurveda is called dinacharya. Again, since all of us are now forced to lock ourselves inside, sometimes I gave another talk this today. I was doing a Facebook Live, and I was telling people, sometimes due to a particular situation, we have no choice. And right now we have no choice. So rather than just watching TV and going on internet and increasing your vata, it's the best time we learn Ayurvedic dinacharya. And if we can do it for a few weeks, I can guarantee that all the life, we will continue practicing this Ayurvedic dinacharya. A lot of information you can find on the net, and you can go to our website, you can see. And the most important thing, try to understand yourself. Try to know your nature, your prakriti, what is your constitution. And this is the time you explore, because we can't go out. So I'm saying, if you cannot go out, go within. Go within yourself, visit yourself, talk to your liver, talk to your heart, talk to your kidneys, understand your mind. This is, I think, of course, we are in a very bad situation, but every bad situation is an opportunity for us to learn, to understand. And, if we keep our mind quiet and our intelligent working, then we can definitely, at least learn more and more about our own system. And this is a good opportunity, as I feel.
So I like to add a couple of points. One of them is, like Timothy shared his experience of how he dealt with using yoga and Ayurveda, a situation that he dealt with. I fortunately did not have to deal with any of those issues, but something that is very relevant, that I normally travel quite a bit, and I used to get maybe 20 years ago, at least twice a year, cold and cough, which is most of the time is viral. And since I started doing yoga myself, and then later on I adopted this concoction that Dr. Chauhan told. A few of them I include licorice and ginger, cinnamon, black pepper, and others. And I have a YouTube video that I have asked Kanchan, maybe he can share with the audience here. I can tell you that I used to get twice a year cold and cough. Now, if I get once in 3-4 years, that would be surprising. So I know that works, and I have seen. I want to ask this question with this premise, that I've seen doctors, regular Dr. Timothy particularly can maybe comment on this, is that they say, well, there is no evidence any of this works. Of course, my experience or your experience is not placebo-controlled, double-blinded evidence, clinical trial evidence. But nevertheless, it is an individual experience that I'm sharing myself, and you shared yours. How do we deal with the people who say there is no evidence at this point that this really works?
Well, first of all, often they're correct. There may not be randomized controlled trials that something works. But the question is, particularly with things like yoga and Ayurveda that have a strong safety record. And I'm really talking about using yoga therapeutically here. I'm not talking about going out and doing a kick butt yoga class, which you can definitely get hurt doing that. But in yoga therapy, where we're tailoring the yoga to the individual, injuries are very uncommon. Now, when I was dealing with cancer, I found that many of the things I was considering, for example, I fasted during chemotherapy because I had found evidence, mostly from animals, but also one case history in humans, that fasting during chemotherapy almost completely eliminated nausea and vomiting, debilitating side effect. I made the decision to fast even though there was not good evidence to do it. And as a result, I had no nausea and vomiting in one of the most toxic, emetogenic, as doctors call it, vomit-inducing chemotherapy drugs there were. I had none at all during my treatment because I fasted. There's also evidence from animals that increases the effectiveness of both the chemotherapy and the radiation. So when you're faced with a potentially life-threatening situation, sometimes the problem wasn't that the things I was considering using didn't have evidence that support them. They had never been studied. And I think that it's a little bit hypocritical that the same system that doesn't fund the study of many of these things that they could fund says, well, you've got no evidence. Meanwhile, on the other hand, they're saying, well, we shouldn't fund that stuff. That's a bunch of crap anyway. So I talk about this issue of scientific evidence a lot in my book, Saving My Neck, A Doctor's East-West Journey Through Cancer, specifically about how the randomized controlled trial, which is an excellent tool to study reductionist treatments like drugs and things like that, is actually not a great tool to examine holistic medicine, because we tailor the routine based on the individual and their various imbalances. That's what we go after, the person's imbalances. We don't go after the disease per se. So nothing that Dr. Pratap has said, nothing that I've said is about, here's what you do for coronavirus. No, here's what you do for yourself to make you more likely to prevent and more likely to survive and more likely to recover quickly. By, it's like the principle of organic farming. Instead of putting pesticides on the plant, and right now for COVID-19, we don't have any pesticides. Instead of that, you boost the health of the soil to make the plant grow stronger and more able to resist disease itself, partly by generating the chemicals internally in the body that help us boost our immunity and resist disease.
Thank you. Dr. Chauhan, you want to comment?
Yeah, I think I fully agree, because Ayurveda as a treatment system is a personalized medical system. Each person is unique in terms of constitution and habitat, age. Not only that, the immunity and the mental strength. There's at least like 10 parameters that we see in an individual before we decide what should be given. So the modern, reductionist approach really doesn't fit into the Ayurvedic protocols. So therefore, I'm sure, we have our own protocols, and we have been using these protocols for thousands of years. Especially, I can talk about Jiva. And now we have a database of almost like 0.5 million patients. And we have just published a big data analysis last year in a European journal. So where we have published like even reliefs, like how many people have got relief and comorbidity and all those things have been, studied in that. So, and not only me now, even the Ayush ministry has created a Ayush grid where they are collecting all this data from, various practitioners. So there's a lot of, evidence is available. This sentence is, everywhere I hear that there's no evidence. There's a lot of evidence available if people want to look at it, And now, as I said, there are a lot of efforts being made by the Ministry of Ayush, which was like started, about 6 years ago, where they're, putting all these information together. Even there is a research portal they are putting together, where there are at least, I think, thousands of research papers are there. So, but still, we have to respect the personalized protocols of Ayurveda, and that's what I always say. Let's the doctors of all systems come together, try to see what good we have, what good you have, try to take the best of all systems, and why not create some joint protocols. I'm again giving you an example of China. They're doing it very well there. I've seen, I was in China last year. In fact, I was in Wuhan. I was in this city in April last year, and I met quite a few of the professors. I met some clinics and hospitals, and they work together. There are traditional Chinese doctors and modern doctors. They're working together. So I think it's time we all think on these lines and try to work together and create protocols that can help the society.
Thank you very much. I think this is, yeah, go ahead.
Could I just say one thing here? And I think that what Dr. Pratap just said is absolutely correct and wonderful, and we should do it. Here's the problem, at least in the United States. It's not going to happen. There is not going to be, in the next few weeks, massive cooperation between conventional medicine and holistic medicine. It's not going to happen. So if you as an individual are concerned and you want to bring a more holistic focus to your healthcare, you need to do it yourself. You can try to get help, you can try to read books, you can try to consult people, perhaps use telemedicine, just a Skype call or WhatsApp, whatever, to try to get some assistance in doing this. I know it's not easy for people who don't have training to know what the appropriate thing to do is. But that's why we're really, I think, focusing on, like, try to have a regular schedule, try to get to bed on time. Don't stay up all night watching videos on YouTube. Keep a regular schedule. Keep yourself healthy. In addition, I mentioned restorative yoga. If you know how to do it, do simple pranayama, like alternate nostril breathing. Do simple meditation, just like breath awareness or belly moving up and down as you either sit up or lie down. Do basic things to try to help yourself. I personally am also taking medicinal mushrooms. A lot of evidence from Chinese medicine that medicinal mushrooms can be useful. They're very safe. They seem to have a number of benefits. I put a teaspoon in my oatmeal in the morning, and I put a teaspoon in the pot of chai I make. And it's just, is it helping me? I don't know. Is it going to hurt me? Almost certainly not. And this is part of the thing. You've got stuff that might well help. There's reason to feel it might help, even if it hasn't been fully scientifically examined. And it appears safe. I think in an extreme situation like this, doing a few things like that are carefully chosen. By the way, I'm not recommending that you take every dietary supplement that comes down the block, or massive doses of vitamins and things like that. I'm remembering simple herbal remedies, things like mushrooms, natural things that have a proven track record of safety and might help. And if they turn out to not help, you haven't lost too much.
Well, thank you. I just want to make a comment on this, because I obviously I'm not a practitioner, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a scientist who likes to look at these things. I do some research in Ayurvedic field, and I established a course here in University of Massachusetts on science of Kriya Yoga, which actually meets science requirements. So I want to comment a little bit on science part of it. Well, my lab also works on developing drug development. And I can tell you, recently we published a paper which developed a drug which is inspired by the natural compounds, natural products. 70% of the current drugs are inspired by the natural products. So the first drug was actually developed from natural products. So it's not completely dark that we are talking about. I mean, there is a lot of inspiration that comes from natural products, and we get a lot of ideas from nature. That's number one. Number two, I did study because of all this question and then some of the ingredients that Dr. Pratap Chauhan is talking about. I looked up the research on it, what research has been done individually. And I found that almost all of those that you mentioned and more, each one of them have been studied at least for innate immunity. So all these ingredients, whether it's a clove or the black pepper or ginger or licorice or cinnamon, each one of them, neem, individually, I looked at papers, and there are solid papers published scientific journals that says that they increase the innate immunity. In many cases, there is a compound called interferon. And actually, the name interferon comes because it interferes with the virus pathogenicity, because it interferes with the virus multiplication. So they have, those studies are done. I just want to put it out there. It's not completely superstitious thing that people are doing. There is enough study done that these compounds, one way or the other, affect something called at least innate immunity. In many cases, they also help the adaptive immunity, which is where when you are vaccinated, and then you get a better antibodies to counter these pathogens. So this is a very important aspect, I think, for people to know, that if they are going to take it, there is at least scientific evidence that this might work. And sometimes it puzzles me why the doctors and the current pharmacists and others, why do they not, at least in this time of such a stress and panic, when I think people are going to be more stressed, and we know that stress causes problem with the immune system as well. So they will be more immunocompromised if they are stressed, rather than assuring them and helping them with whatever we have, and then moving that forward in the minds of, like you're saying, that people should be relaxed, they should get good sleep, and they should do their routine things, not panic. And the last point I want to make is that right now the treatment that we are using, the modern medicine is using, when the patient goes to the hospital, obviously they treat that patient, and they are treating that patient with the drugs that were developed for Ebola, not for the coronavirus. They are treating with the drug that was created for HIV, not for the coronavirus. Of course, these are all historical drugs, and we know the coronavirus is a virus, just like HIV virus is a virus, and just like Ebola virus is a virus, just like a SARS virus is a virus. It talks like a virus, it walks like a virus, it acts like a virus. So there are some common things that one could use, and then if you can use them, then why not use some of these ancient ideas? Because ultimately, both of you know, and I'm sure the audience knows, that we get millions of viruses and pathogens. We are exposed to them every moment, actually. And the only way we survive is because we have the innate ability through our innate immunity as well as adaptive immunity, and then we are able to counter that. So if you can, whatever you both of you told, it seems that will enhance that innate immunity. And if we can use that in the meantime, as it has been there for forever, why not? And as to the question of what is the evidence, is there any evidence or there is no evidence? And I know I shouldn't say this, but I think I have used this argument just to make it that there is really no evidence that my father was my father, because nobody had tested. There is no evidence that anybody who says this, they know for sure that their father is their father. But we do traditionally believe in it, and it works. And I think it works out for the society. So I think it should be taken from that point of view. Any comments on that?
Well, one thing I would like to say is almost all the herbs that you just mentioned are culinary herbs. They're spices that we use in cooking that people have been eating and consuming daily for millennia. Okay, so it's not like some dietary supplement that just someone invented a year ago and may turn out to have some side effect that we didn't recognize. This is stuff that has almost zero potential to cause any harm. Some basic science research that supports, but we lack the clinical research that doctors usually demand, partly because what drug company, which is where most research comes from these days, money from drug companies, is going to support research on a generically available food item? Okay, so we don't have the research being done. So then to insist that this stuff that's cheap and safe, and there's some scientific rationale to think that these might actually work, that we can't use them because there's no evidence they work, I think we just have to call that what it is. And I'll leave that to the audience to decide the proper word to describe that.
All right, thank you. Dr. Chauhan, you have some comment?
No, I think I fully agree with what you both have said.
So I think it's an important thing to understand why the modern medicine requires what it requires. We have to appreciate that. We need to understand the science because we have the structure, we have the molecules, we have the pharmacokinetics, and we have their side effects. Because we are these are in many cases, like even though I said that 70% of the modern drugs are really derived or inspired by the natural, but nevertheless they are different and they do have side effects. And so one has to be concerned about it, and why we need to appreciate that we need to do this placebo controlled double-blinded study, because like you were saying that this is something not has been used for a long time. This is just in many cases just the drug is produced a month ago and then you don't really want to go try it. One more point I want to say that chloroquine, which is completely unrelated to virus, it's never been used against viruses, but chloroquine is a drug that is used against malaria, and that is now being prescribed. Actually, I think the President Trump that said that in his White House address, that chloroquine is going to work. And the way it works, is something related to what I do with my toxin work. That virus needs to get inside the cell, and it uses a process called endocytosis. That endosome has to have acidic pH. It is natural, physiologically it happens. The chloroquine blocks that acidification. So this it's a very completely different kind of mechanism, but nevertheless it works against this virus. So there are again the natural compound that may be enhancing innate immunity. They may be interfering with some metabolic processes that is important for the virus to produce and reproduce. So I think absolutely agree that this is a great idea for people to consider, and maybe we should learn how to make, or you have a recommendation what kind of diet or food they should make, and if there is any place that they can look for this kind of information and they can use in their cooking and eating, maybe this is the right time to learn how to cook at home because you are sitting at home.
And thank you so much. If I could just make one additional point. We're not talking about any kind of opposition to conventional medicine. Good holistic care recognizes that in many instances, conventional medicine has powerful tools that can help people. So this is not at all a critique or a dissing of conventional medicine. It's simply what can we do by ourselves to try to supplement whatever conventional care we might end up needing. So we ideally, as Dr. Pratap has been saying, we want a collaboration. I don't think the environment, at least in this country, is ready for that right now. So this then falls on individuals and on holistic health practitioners to promote these lifestyle interventions, these simple dietary things, maybe very simple herbal things, other treatments like acupuncture and things, who knows, but very likely could have beneficial effects. Maybe that's not happening right now with people staying in and all that. But the point is, We want to open it up, use any tool that's potentially helpful, regardless of where it comes from, and not criticize our conventional doctors who maybe have a limited understanding of holistic healing, but actually celebrate them. They're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones who are risking their life and well-being and their families' lives and well-being by out caring for the people in need right now. And so we want to actually celebrate.
Excellent, excellent point. Dr. Chauhan, do you think there is any recommendation Jiva Institute makes for culinary art development and using that as a means of keeping ourselves healthy?
Yeah, so as Dr. Timothy also just mentioned, it's like supplementation. Either you call it culinary or you call it like supplementary herbal treatment. We have been doing a lot of work on this, and in fact, I was doing some specific workshop on like culinary medicine for diabetes, culinary medicine for heart patients, and similarly like other diseases. Because in Ayurveda, food is also medicine. It's very important part of the whole protocol. And we actually say that if somebody doesn't follow a diet, there's no point taking any medicines because it won't work, because it's a part of it's as important as herbal medicines that we give. So whether it is any kind of infection or if it is any kind of some physical disorder or it's like some degenerative diseases, the diet plays a very important role. So we have been doing some work on this. In fact, we were talking about like previously a little bit about evidence. As I mentioned, that we do have a lot of inflow of patients every day, and majority of these patients are those who have not gotten any much response in the conventional medicine. In Ayurveda, people come in the end, when nothing works, then they will come to us. And I'm very happy to share with you again, when I look at the data and when we see the analysis, I may not say that we cure like 100% of all of them, but even if we can, improve their quality of life, even if we can somehow, when you look at the pain parameters, like if I can bring it from 8 to 7, it's a big thing. This is the evidence, and we are working on in our institute that we work now, and we have about 80 clinics in India. We have around 350 Ayurvedic doctors who work in Jiva. So about a couple of years ago, we created these protocols, which are like they have a decision-making algorithm behind it, and we also now putting some AI, techniques, like which based on the Ayurvedic knowledge. So the Ayurvedic doctors are using these protocols, and we are seeing that we are able to arrive at some conclusion, which could be called, if not evidence, it could be called the outcome-based evidence. So if we can show the outcome is good, so then we can move further and do the other kind of research, which is more acceptable in the world.
So there's one question that I have, and it is maybe more Ayurvedic, which is related to this coronavirus or any other diseases. There is some level of cycle, that in some season that comes. I know Ayurveda recommends certain types of lifestyle, certain types of food with the season. Is that connected to the organism? Because the organism is also alive, even though it is hurting us, so we want to be away from it. But is this also this also get the food over with the season? These organisms can be analyzed as to why they grow in certain times of the year, and whether it's temperature or humidity and other things have anything to do with it, because that's one of the issues that is being discussed in the scientific community.
Yeah, I think definitely the season has an impact, and as you know, I think the science also believes that certain organisms, they are more, they have a tendency to grow in cooler climates than in the hot, temperature. They don't stay for long. And regarding the seasonal thing that you mentioned, in Ayurveda, we have this Ritucharya, regimen, seasonal regimen. And again, if we want to understand why people have, like you said, you used to have flu in a particular season, maybe autumn and spring, that's when people have all the flu-like symptoms. It's because when we are, we're having a transitional phase from one season to another season. That's where our agony, I did speak about the digestive fire in my earlier part. The digestive fire is very unstable. And when the digestive fire is very unstable, that's when it, is not able to digest the food that we are eating. And that's when that AMA is produced. And as I said, AMA is the medium in which these organisms or whatever bacteria, viruses, they can grow very fast. It's like a breeding environment for them. So that's why, in India, like from next week also, we are having these 9 days of fasting, and they come in autumn also, and then they also come in the springtime, because this is again a kind of a reminder for us that, we're shifting the season. So let's, keep low profile. Let's not overburden the Agni. Let's not produce too much Ama, so that we can attract all these kind of, organisms into our body. I think the organisms, they always exist somewhere in the outer climate, but it is our inner environment, which if inner environment is clean, it is more strong, then even if they enter, they're not going to bother you, because not everybody gets flu. There are people who are living in the same house, in the same climate, they're eating the same food. One person gets it, another doesn't get it. It's the personal structure that we have to also understand, whether we call it Ama or we call it Ojas in Ayurvedic terminology, which is our immunity or the fighting power against diseases. So in Ayurveda, we understand it like that.
Okay, Timothy, while this is true that this is pandemic and the virus can be found almost in every country, one way, maybe somewhere more, somewhere less, and there are various factors. But one of the things that has been discussed is that in the higher temperature countries, temperature where it's already higher, there are less cases, and there is a hope that as the summer picks up, this might go down. There is a opposition to this, scientific as well as traditional opposition that this may actually create more problem for people to be unnecessarily or falsely hopeful that this will go away and then not change their behavior. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that simply we don't know. I mean, we certainly have certain things, as you suggest, that suggest that there may be a temperature effect, but this is a novel coronavirus. It's new. We don't actually know. I think right now it's prudent that as best we can, we prepare for a worst case scenario. And if we're blessed with something like a lessening of the pandemic, when warmer temperatures arrive, well, then we can throw up our hands and thank whoever we want to thank for that. Okay, but I think that right now we really need to focus on public health measures. Things like, I mean, it was very interesting being in India a week ago, where everything was being done correctly from a public health standpoint, where cases were being tested, where contacts were being monitored and followed, where people were being isolated. Everything was being done correctly. To come back to America, where hospitals are running out of masks and protective equipment, and where much worse problems are forecast for the coming weeks, where widespread testing is only now just coming online. Most people who may be spreading the infection are not themselves sick enough that they are being tested right now. So we have a total failure or a partial failure of public health in the United States right now. So this is part of the reason why it becomes incumbent on all of us to be really careful. And even if it turns out that we did more than we needed to do, that's better than turning out we did less than we needed to do. And our grandmother dies as a result, or we die as a result, or our hospitals are absolutely overwhelmed and people with all kinds of conditions can't get the care they need. So that's the potential thing we're facing. And if you look at the incident curves, we're not on the schedule of countries like South Korea that really used public health to brilliantly try to contain the pandemic. We're on the track of Italy, where things are going from bad to worse every day, getting worse. We're maybe 10 days behind them, but we may be there sooner than later. And I think that no one should diminish the possibility that this is a potentially life-altering, not just life-threatening, but life-altering thing we're experiencing right now.
So the quarantine is absolutely, because we have no other way. The only way to prevent is not get in touch, not contract it, not contract others, not infect others. That is very important, and the government will do, doctors probably, hospitals will do whatever they can do within their limits. But there are a lot of things going on in the social media. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have a lot of connections with each other. And the reason I asked this question about temperature, because this is Ayurvedic practice also, Dr. Chauhan, that people think that if you drink hot water, as an example, that will help you because they think that the virus will die. So that's one question. The other question is that I saw somebody sending me some information that you can use hair dryer to blow hot air in your mouth and in your nose. So I mean, all these things are going on, and it's important to I mean, I know that maybe our audience is smart enough to be able to figure it out. But the point is that it is something that I would like you to say, because there is some connection with hot water and Ayurveda for sure. And then in terms of temperature, we know in biology, the reason we get fever is our body's response to raise the temperature so that the pathogen will die. So there is a reason, scientific reason, why that might happen. Whether that happens outside in the atmosphere or not, that's a separate issue. But the temperature does have an effect on the organism. So I would like you to address this question so that our audience understands this and makes a decision that's, of course, suitable and to their understanding. But nevertheless, I think it's a good idea to address it briefly.
Yeah, so I think we are all watching these different kind of treatments which are people spreading in social media. And about the temperature part, I would say, like, we don't know whether the novel coronavirus has any effect of the temperature. But from Ayurvedic perspective, when we say drink warm water, or take ginger or turmeric or all these cinnamon kind of things, see, we are trying to work again on two things. We are trying to make your digestive fire strong, and according to Ayurveda, digestive fire is a very, very important part of our health, not only just for prevention, but also when it comes to treatment of diseases. Sometimes we have patients whose digestive fire is very, very weak. They are not even able to digest the medicine. So first, the protocol is to enhance their digestive fire. That's where drinking warm water or giving all these ginger kind of herbs. And of course, the other part which I mentioned, all these heating treatments, they also eliminate the ama or the toxins, which is like a mucus type of material. It's like, we can compare it to kapha. So kapha is cold and thick and solid, and anything warm and light and pungent will actually balance it or melt it. So that is the philosophy. It's not necessarily for the coronavirus that we are talking here, but definitely that's how Ayurveda is talking about taking warm things. And since it is a flu, and there are symptoms like cold, and Ayurveda, the treatment protocol is stop the similar, take the opposite. So that's why we advise, don't eat ice creams, don't drink cold water, don't take anything cold and which is mucus type. Take something opposite, which is warm, something light, something more pungent. So that's the Ayurvedic way to understand it.
Timothy, you have any comments?
No, I just agree with the idea that we don't know. And again, I mean, if you do something like put a hair dryer near your mouth to try to dry it out, who knows if something like that could work. Are you going to hurt yourself? Probably not. But I just think, be prudent. We have so much misinformation being spread. So many people trying to cash in on the pandemic by selling you some product that they claim will be effective. Just be careful with this stuff. We're talking that probably the most effective things are diet, exercise, good sleep, stress reduction, These are the things that really work. Now, these things, of course, depend on you taking action yourself. And this, of course, is the catcher with holistic medicine, because you have to do the work yourself. You're not just taking a pill that someone's prescribed. You're actually proactively going out there and trying to eat good food and all that. Let me make one more comment on food, because right now, for example, I just got back from India a week ago. I could have been exposed in the airplane. I don't have any symptoms, but I'm assuming that I could be infected, and I'm quarantining myself for 14 days now that I'm home. So I did make one food trip the day I got back, just because my house was cleaned out, but I've got food now. I'm staying in, and one of the things I've done is started sprouting broccoli seeds and mung beans, because I can get something that from a yogic and Ayurvedic perspective is high in prana at a time when I may be reduced to eating older food, maybe some food out of the can, etc., which is not ideal from a yogic and Ayurvedic standpoint, but obviously sometimes life-saving. You got to do it. But if you're going to be eating mostly dead food, which is how yoga and Ayurveda view things that come out of cans, basically very low vitality, low prana. If you can do something like have a little plant you grow in your house that you take fresh basil leaves off of, or maybe grow a little kale in the house if you got that going, as I'm suggesting, sprout some seeds, get something that's vital, and add that to your diet as well. Just one little idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Bear. We are coming towards the end, but I must ask this question because you did mention about this masks. Because this is another issue that is going around, whether we should put on masks or we shouldn't. Only those people who have been tested positive, they should put on masks so that they can prevent this from spreading to others. But when we are talking, there are masks. I know that my lab uses N95 masks because we want to prevent ourselves from toxin and other things. But there are not enough N95 masks. Obviously, they're not available. And even if they were available, I know I put those on, and I have to go to a hospital to get fit tested, because you have to know how to breathe through them. It's just not possible. But nevertheless, my common sense says that we are talking about sneezing, people coughing around you or talking to you. I mean, if you had protected yourself with just a scarf, at least the bigger particles will not get to you. Is there anything wrong with that? I mean, that's just a common sense. Why is that discouraged, that you don't put on any mask? Mask of any kind probably will only be preventative. Yes or no?
I think that it was unfortunate that people were completely discouraged from using masks early on. I mean, I understand we don't want people hoarding them. We don't want people denying it from healthcare workers who need it most urgently. But the idea, I mean, so for example, in places like South Korea and other places, they in fact use widespread use of masks. Very interesting. Coming from India, I was one of the few people on the airplane who did not have a mask on. I wasn't able to get any. Wasn't able to get any hand sanitizer either. But you know what I did? I carried a soap dish with soap in my pocket, and every time I used the restroom on the plane, I washed my hands for 20 seconds, very, very thoroughly. So I think that particularly if it's some kind of homemade thing, is it going to be ideal? Is it going to prevent you from getting infected? It may not. Could it make a 1% difference or a 2% difference? Absolutely, it could. We just, there's that kind of small difference we wouldn't even know about if we'd studied. So, yeah. So the point is, there's little harm in using a mask. It may actually be more important for people who are infected, and not just people who've had positive tests, because not everyone can get a test right now, at least in the United States. So, but rather anyone who has even cold symptoms, which could be a slightly unusual presentation of coronavirus. So the idea is the people who are infected absolutely should be wearing masks. And remember that a huge percentage of people with this coronavirus, particularly younger people, appear to be infected and asymptomatic. So you could make a case that those people too would benefit other people by wearing masks. Okay, and so I do think that there's little harm and potentially some benefit. And again, it's what we've been talking about. Safety, is there any scientific rationale would make it make sense? You mentioned larger particles. Okay, that's not going to be perfect because some viruses are going to be able to get right through certain materials, no doubt. But could it make a difference? It might. And it, more importantly, may help you not infect someone else, which is really what propagates the pandemic.
Dr. Singh, sorry to interrupt. This is
I
Kanchan.
just,
There are many questions. Actually, there are at least 18 hands are up right now.
Okay, let's get to some of
We
those.
should take some of those questions. Sorry to interrupt, Dr. Chauhan.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're looking for it. Yeah, Dr. Pratap Chauhan.
yesterday I was speaking to one of my counterparts, who works at Jiva Japan, and I'm trying to do a research from China and different countries, like what's going on, and Japan is still not increasing very highly. So one of the reasons they told me is that everybody in Japan wears a mask. So maybe that could be a reason. I mean, there's no evidence for that, but definitely I think it doesn't harm if we can try to, because you can be a carrier. And I would say the best medicine in this time, I've done a lot of studies. Best medicine is stay home. Everybody should believe that I could be the potential carrier, so at least stay home for 14 days before you just really move out of your house. That is the best medicine, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Kanchan, please let us have some of those questions.
Yes, so there are many. Actually, I think there are about 40 questions right now. So
Sorry, we have been talking. We thought we didn't have any other questions.
Right. So, but before I give you the questions, I wanted to mention, since the summer and winter was mentioned, we have people joined us from 35 countries, and I would say some from South Africa and several African countries. It's summer there, so they have the disease also. So I just wanted to mention that. And before we take any question, there is a comment, or rather, hello from Verona, Italy, by Anne Conte. Timothy's, she says hi to you. Carol Dunaway from Springfield, Illinois has asked this question, and this should be going to Dr. Chauhan. Is it wise to practice Panchakarma now? Are there any suggestions for modifications to use at this time due to the viral problem? This is related to Panchakarma.
Since, as I said, right now we are all in that phase that distancing is very important. Social distancing is one of the main important thing that we want to practice at that time. So I would suggest at this point not to go for Panchakarma, because there's the therapist is there and a lot of touching and closeness is there. So I think wait till it is confirmed that both the therapist and the patients are free from the disease, then maybe they can go for Panchakarma.
And many people are asking if a recording of this session would be available. Yes, we'll put it online, and we'll share that link with you. So many of you ask, can you please ask to repeat some of the herbs that Dr. Chauhan mentioned? We will share with you the video of this session. One question I have from James.
And we can type them also out. We can type those out as well.
Say it again.
The name of the herbs can be typed out also, so that people can.
Right. Yeah. So we can, yes, we can put it in there. And this question is from Jamie. I don't know from where. If you have the virus and then recover your health, do you have immunity to COVID-19 upon returning to health?
Generally do. Generally, if you have recovered, generally you have adaptive immunity over a period of time. Depends on your health and other things like how much. But in general, you will have at least for a short period of time, or short period of time means at least maybe a year or so.
Very good. Thank you. I'm not sick, but caring for elderly parents at high risk. I'm in New York. I want to boost my own immunity to protect them. I am Vata Pitta according to yoga Ayurveda teacher, have worked in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So this is from Mary Jean in New York, sorry.
So I think we already mentioned about various things to boost the immunity. Those things can be taken.
So for the elderly also same.
Yeah, elderly also same thing. You know, they're like all safe herbs that we talk. These are all spices we are talking about.
Okay, the next question is from Sangeeta Malia, I think from Delhi. What kind of food and beverages are recommended for consumption in North America in this season? And that is from her.
So as I mentioned, like you know, in Ayurveda we all say like light means laghu ahar, which is easily digestible, and the food should be always, as Timothy also mentioned, food that has prana. In Ayurvedic terminology, we call it sattvic food. So try to avoid all this junk food, fast food, canned food, and not also to eat foods which are difficult to digest, like deep fried or white flour, white sugar. It should be completely avoided. The cold drinks, ice creams, frozen things, frozen yogurt kind of stuff should be avoided. All these are mucus forming things. Also, they create anyway some blockage in the nasal and the throat and the respiratory tract. So foods which are easily digestible, food which are full of prana, fresh vegetables, fruits, mung beans, some oatmeal, some khichdi. Khichdi is a very nice, recipe in Ayurveda, which is very popular. Of course, drink some herbal teas, drink warm water. This is what should be. Try to avoid too much of milk products, too much of sweets and fried and cold things.
Okay. Next question is so some questions are already answered. I'm just trying to skip through. Some people are asking the generic question about yoga. I would like to skip those because we are talking about Corona. So sorry about that. I have two. Can you please send a list of particular herbs? We will do that. Then fasting. You mentioned ama. So Vandana Sharma from Boston has asked, does ama relate to free radicals?
Well, that's something, maybe Dr. Balram Singh would maybe mention free radicals. In Ayurveda,
Ama is obviously there are from what I understand from Ayurvedic perspective, ama is a lot of acidic material that gets partly digested. From my understanding, I'm not a gastroenterologist, but from my understanding, maybe Timothy can comment on that too. It needs to get to the oxygen and for making the oxygen radical. So of course, when there are chemical reactions going on from a stomach point of view, there is not that much of oxygen. Oxygen gets further down when you have in the small intestine where there is more blood circulation and then exchange. So the probably oxygen radicals will be found more there and rather than in the stomach.
Thank you. There is a question from Joanne asking, should we be avoiding or eating meat?
well, from as I just mentioned, we need prana at this time. Prana, meat is not having prana, so I would suggest to eat more fresh vegetables and more, maybe seeds and sprouts, and that is very, very important, because prana is also a very important part of our health, according to Ayurveda.
We also need to be aware that some people are stuck inside. They can't get out to grocery stores. So it's important to eat what you can eat and do the best you can. If you're normally a meat eater in your house and what you've got in your freezer is meat and your choice is either not to eat adequately or eat meat, then certainly you should eat meat. Okay, we're probably all going to need to make some compromises. Ayurveda is brilliant, but one of the things about Ayurveda is if you followed every single Ayurvedic prescription, that you'd be spending all day just doing it. So you do the best you can. You try to eat, if you're going to eat meat, eat it in small portions, eat it intelligently, cook it well, don't deep fry it, things like that. It makes sense. But we don't want to be strictly saying nobody should eat this. I don't think that's good advice either.
Thank you. And Joe Hadar suggested that how can we enhance the studies that are done. I just wanted to mention earlier, Dr. Singh and Dr. McCall mentioned that we need to do a lot of joint ventures together with our conventional medicine as well as integrative medicine. And Boston Center of Excellence is actually creating this platform and connecting with people around the globe to do that cooperation work. And someone asked what is the name of the lab Dr. Singh is working at. It's called Institute of Advanced Sciences in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, near Boston. And Boston Center of Excellence is a partner with this institute and promoting some of his great work they're doing in the lab. And someone mentioned that can we do some crowdfunding for this? Definitely, Joe, I have your email. Will reach out to you if you can help. Then next question is, as usual, repeat more recipe again. So as I said, the video will be available online, so you will not have to write down anything right now. If you can write, that's fine. Timothy, question for you: the mushroom medicine you mentioned, mushroom drug, I think. Do you have the name of it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's I can't remember the brand name off the top of my head. I could go look if you want. It's not very far from where I am. But basically, it's a mixture of 14 different medicinal mushrooms. It's got shiitake and maitake and several others that, well, many others that have been shown to have immune boosting effects. I just bought it online. I think if you look around, you'll be able to find it. Just pure organic mushrooms, no additives of any kind.
Okay, thank you. And this question is probably for Dr. Chavan. Dr. Pratibha Shah, who's an Ayurvedic practitioner in Boston area. She is suggesting, or rather questioning, in line with what China has done and the integration and modern medicine working in Ayush. They have come out with a white paper on what might work. And the question is why there are no distribution of small herb and spice packets to people which are known to enhance immunity. So is there any plan by government that they're going to distribute?
Well, as far as I just, I was a part of a discussion this today about this, and they are working on it. Still in India, I think because the patients are still very limited. I think we hope that they remain limited. But there are talks going on, like how we can bring in Ayush supplements and also work together. So of course this is a decision that will be taken at the government level. But the government and the Ayush Ministry, they're doing some work in this area.
Great. Now, this is Leanne from Australia. Hello, Dr. Timothy. I'm wondering, as it's not talked about anywhere in Kalonji, if Kalonji is helpful when added to the CCFT with ginger.
I'm sorry, what is
it's
ended?
called? It's called Kalonji. I know. I'm not sure if it is what it is in.
Kalonji is quite popular now in the world. So a lot of people are taking it for various reasons. Again, as we are talking about novel coronavirus and COVID-19, and we can't claim anything which is really working for this particular. But Kalonji has its own various benefits which can be taken for that.
What would be the English name for it? Do you know?
I think it's called like onion seeds, they call it, or something.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
The Kalonji is quite popular. We just check the English version.
Mm-hmm. There are many questions. The Tulsi, turmeric, and Nashya comment, and the Ayush questions from Pratibha Shah. So so can you explain if it is turmeric along with oil, how to apply it?
Yeah, so I was, as I said, I was also reading that the Ayush Ministry is trying to create some such guidelines, and Nasya is a part of that. Nasya is a simple procedure. You put like a few drops, 2-3 drops of oil in each nostril and just try to sniff it in. It's good if you can do a little massage before it, before you put the oil. Do a massage around the sinus area, and then if you can also do a steam so that the sinuses are open, and then you put the oil. That's a better way to do it. But if you are not able to do the steaming and the massage part, you can just straight put the oil in the nose.
Okay.
And I would mention about turmeric, just one little tip for people. Of course, it's a wonderful culinary spice. You can use it, and really, I actually even put it in my oatmeal. But the thing is, if you add a small amount of black pepper, which was, of course, traditional in many Indian curries through history, it increases the bioavailability of turmeric by 20-fold. So you get so much more turmeric into your system if you just sprinkle a tiny bit of black pepper and whatever you're using it with.
Great. And
Kalonji is a fennel seed, a fennel flower actually.
okay, fennel. Okay, thank you. So someone, Steffi Jones, has written to Timothy. I've been teaching thymus thumping as means of boosting lymphocyte production. I don't know what it is, but Timothy, any advice on this? Do you believe it's effective? Please, tell something that can be done in this.
Honestly, I don't have any direct experience with that, so I don't know. But again, I think we're talking about something that probably, as long as you're not thumping too hard, is not going to cause any harm. And if it's been studied, I'm not aware of those studies, so I don't know what the theoretical basis of that is. But again, I think low risk for harm, and if there's some reason to feel like it might help, or even if your clinical experience working with people with it is that it does help, I don't see any reason to not continue it for right now.
Great. There are many more questions, so let's see if we can take a few more, because it's already 90 minutes, which was the time limit we had. I'm going down. Namaste, Hughes. Thank you all. Florence. So I'm just going through all the questions. There's so many of them. Is ashwagandha recommended along with tulsi tea?
The ashwagandha is primarily a tonic for nervous system, and it's also used for specifically. I don't think in this particular system, which is the respiratory system, it's not very popularly used. It's mostly used for as a nervous system tonic, or sometimes when you want to enhance the strength and the physical energy. So that's when ashwagandha is used.
And again, we're not just talking about treating a virus, we're talking about treating people. There's so much we've talked about that's making vata go up. Ashwagandha is a lovely tonic. It's not gonna, likely to have any negative effects, and could well make a difference, particularly if you're finding yourself feeling anxious, if you're sleeping poorly, if you're constipated, or have other signs of common signs of vata increase, then it may be more appropriate.
You can add Brahmi also to that when it comes to the brain and the nervous system.
Okay, thank you. Lisa asked a question. Actually, she has a couple of them. I have approximately 50% of normal immunoglobulin level. I get good help from etheric oils using steam, tent, diffusing, and taking orally. However, until now, I have only used the oils over a shorter period of time. Now the situation is different now. Question is, what is more effective to fight virus? Either to use 3 of my 6 most effective oils during the day to fight the virus in different ways, and then change oils from day to day, or like with antibiotics, to take only one strong oil for a certain period of time. So I don't know if any of you are expert in therapeutic oil therapy.
I don't feel like I have expertise in this per se. I will say one thing, that a lot of things are subject to a loss of effectiveness when used consistently over time. So a case could be made if you have several tools which seem to help you to use some for a while and then switch to something else. I wouldn't switch multiple times a day. I think maybe using one for a few days and then switching to another, something like that might make more sense, but I don't have direct experience with answering the specifics of this question.
Mr. Bridge Gard from New Hampshire, USA, is asking if methy, which is fenugreek, may have good effect both in prevention and treatment. Methy.
Not really, not for this kind of situation.
Okay. Well, I think I tried to pick most of the questions, and I skipped some of the general queries about yoga and Ayurveda, that which books to read, what studies. So first of all, you should visit Timothy's website and Dr. Chauhan's website, jiva.org. And Dr. Timothy, can you please mention your website again?
Yeah, sure. It's just Dr. McCall, drmccall.com.
Okay.
How
So
about jiva.com?
please repeat again.
Jiva.com, not org. We have org is in another area, but Ayurveda is jiva.com.
JIVA.com. Yeah. So please do look up the websites, and if you have any further questions, send it to us. We'll forward to the experts in this panel, as well as some other experts we know who are involved in this work. And I think we have come to an end, and I will request Dr. Singh to say some concluding remarks before we leave. And I, on behalf of the Boston Center of Excellence, I personally wanted to thank everybody and pray and hope you all will be safe, and your family members, your loved ones will be safe, and stay calm and well. And if necessary, we'll have another session maybe in 2 weeks' time if you have more questions. Thank you and namaste, and handing over to Dr. Singh, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kanchanji, for organizing this. I'm very grateful. I think the public health is an important issue. We had quite extensive discussion. My feeling is that we should follow the advice that our experts gave. We should follow the instructions of public health officials, cooperate with them as much as possible, and try to avoid contacts. Whatever, I hope that public officials also take precautions and steps so that the public is not put that much in hard conditions, especially about the food and medicine. And if you have resources or you have access to public officials, I think we should try to tell them that they should create more avenues for people to be able to stay home and safe and sound, and come up with the test kits that are more convenient, fast, so that we can identify people who might be contracted with this, and so that everybody does not go through the same mode, and then hopefully the panic will go away and that will be returning eventually to the normal life. Thank you very much.
And also thanks to our eminent panelists, Dr. Pratap Chauhan. It's probably 10 o'clock p.m. in Delhi now, and he's up. Normally he goes to bed early. Thank you for joining us from Delhi, and you also stay well, and hope you will be able to help many people in this situation. And Dr. Timothy McCall, you just came back from India. Actually, we were planning to have this session previous Sunday. At that day, Timothy was actually flying from India, and we are so grateful to you to join us and give us your advice as well. And we will be in touch. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.